1939, one German engineer designed an aircraft that looked like a UFO. It could take off vertically, fly like a plane, and survive an engine failure. On paper, it worked. So, why did it disappear from history? The engineer who refused to give up. By the late 1950s, most engineers would have moved on. The war was over. Germany had changed. Aviation had entered the jet age, and countless experimental projects had disappeared into dusty archives. But Heinrich Focke wasn't interested in forgotten history. Inside a wind tunnel in Bremen, surrounded by measuring equipment and technicians, the veteran engineer carefully watched a strange wooden model, unlike anything sitting on nearby workbenches. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't polished, but it represented almost 2 decades of relentless work. As powerful air rushed across the model, something remarkable happened. The circular aircraft behaved exactly as he had predicted years earlier. The airflow remained stable. The lift matched his calculations. For most people, it was just another engineering test. For Focke, it was proof that 18 years of waiting had not been wasted. Long before the world became fascinated with stealth aircraft, drones, or futuristic flying vehicles, he had already imagined an aircraft that ignored nearly every rule of conventional aviation. The question was, why had he become so obsessed with building something no one else dared attempt? To understand that, we have to go back to a time when the future of flight looked completely different. And that's where the real story begins. An idea that shouldn't have worked in 1939, aircraft designers all followed the same formula. A long fuselage, large wings, and a tail to keep the airplane stable. The blueprint had worked for decades, and nobody had a reason to abandon it, except Heinrich Focke. Instead of improving existing airplanes, he started asking a dangerous question. What if the entire aircraft became the wing? Instead of stretching lift across long wings, what if a circular body could generate lift by itself? The result was one of the most unconventional aircraft concepts ever imagined. A massive disc-shaped fuselage with a cockpit mounted near the front, no traditional wings, and no tail. Deep inside the center, 2 enormous propellers would spin in opposite directions. This wasn't simply an artistic experiment. Every detail served a purpose. By rotating against each other, the propellers would cancel the twisting force that normally made powerful aircraft unstable. That meant the aircraft could lift vertically without needing the complicated tail systems helicopters relied upon. Even more impressive, adjustable internal flaps could redirect the airflow during flight. Straight downward for takeoff, backward for forward acceleration. If everything worked together, the aircraft could leave the ground vertically before transitioning into fast horizontal flight. Today, the concept sounds surprisingly modern, but in 1939, it bordered on unbelievable. Many engineers would have dismissed it immediately. Focke didn't. He trusted mathematics more than opinions. Unfortunately, math alone couldn't solve his biggest problem, because the one thing his revolutionary aircraft needed simply didn't exist. The one missing piece. Designing a revolutionary aircraft is one challenge. Building one is something entirely different. As Focke refined every calculation, one obstacle kept appearing on every page of his notebooks: power. His aircraft demanded an engine unlike anything available at the time. It had to fit inside a compact circular fuselage. It had to produce enormous power, and it had to remain light enough for vertical flight. The piston engines of the late 1930s failed every requirement. They were bulky, heavy, and simply couldn't generate the performance his concept demanded. Each time Focke reviewed the numbers, he reached the same frustrating conclusion. The aircraft itself wasn't impossible. The technology surrounding it simply hadn't caught up. Many inventors would have abandoned the project. Others would have redesigned it into something more conventional. Focke did neither. He archived his work, not because he believed it had failed, but because he believed the future would eventually solve the problem for him. Years passed, the world changed. And then, in the middle of World War II, a breakthrough appeared that suddenly transformed an impossible dream into a realistic engineering project. Everything changed with the arrival of a new kind of engine, and for the first time, the flying disc no longer existed only on paper. When the future finally arrived by 1944, Aviation technology was advancing at an incredible pace. Jet propulsion had entered a completely new era, and engineers across Germany were racing to push aircraft beyond anything seen before. For Heinrich Focke, these developments meant something far more personal. The compact, high-powered engines now being developed appeared capable of solving the very problem that had stalled his project for years. After waiting since 1939, he returned to his flying disc with renewed confidence. The aircraft became far more than a strange sketch. It evolved into a carefully engineered vertical takeoff concept. Its rotating propellers would force air downward during liftoff. As the pilot adjusted movable flaps beneath the aircraft, that airflow could gradually shift backward, transforming vertical lift into forward thrust. The transition promised something extraordinary, a machine capable of lifting like a helicopter while flying with the speed and efficiency of an airplane. Even emergency situations had been considered. If propulsion failed, the control surfaces could redirect airflow to help the aircraft descend in a controlled glide rather than falling uncontrollably. Every revision made the design more practical. Every calculation increased Focke's confidence. Yet the timing could hardly have been worse. By late 1944, Germany's industrial system was collapsing. Factories were under constant attack. Raw materials were disappearing. Production priorities shifted toward projects that could be completed immediately. Revolutionary concepts, even promising ones, were becoming impossible to build. The flying disc had finally become technically believable, but history was moving faster than engineering, and within months, events outside the laboratory would erase almost every chance the project had left. A war ends, but the dream survives. Then everything came crashing down. As Germany surrendered in May 1945, thousands of military projects vanished almost overnight. Research facilities were abandoned, factories fell silent, and countless technical documents were deliberately destroyed before Allied forces could seize them. The flying disc was one of the many designs swallowed by the chaos. Years of work disappeared in days. Only scattered sketches, patent notes, and one man's memory survived. For most engineers, that would have been the end. But Heinrich Focke wasn't like most engineers. Instead of retiring from aviation, he found himself taken to France, where his knowledge was put to work on post-war helicopter development. He wasn't continuing his own vision anymore. Instead, he was helping rebuild aviation elsewhere, applying decades of experience to projects that belonged to other nations. Later, another opportunity appeared. Brazil wanted to establish its own aviation industry and sought some of Europe's finest engineers. Focke accepted the challenge, traveling thousands of miles from the country where his greatest idea had been born. Life had taken him across continents. His career had been completely rewritten, yet one thing never changed. Hidden behind every new assignment was the same unanswered question that had haunted him since 1939. Could the flying disc actually work? While the world believed the project had died with the war, its creator never truly let it go. And when he finally returned home years later, he decided it was time to find the answer once and for all. The moment 18 years had been leading to. In 1956, Heinrich Focke returned to Bremen. He was no longer the ambitious engineer who had first imagined a revolutionary aircraft before the war. He was now 66 years old. Many people at that stage of life spend their time looking back on what they accomplished. Focke was still trying to prove what nobody believed could be built. Without government funding, without a major aircraft company, and without an active military contract, he built a scale model entirely for one purpose: to test the aerodynamics. Inside the wind tunnel, every wire, every sensor, and every measuring instrument had a single job: tell the truth. If the airflow became unstable, the project was finished. If the calculations were wrong, 18 years of work would end in disappointment. As the fans accelerated, air rushed around the circular fuselage. The adjustable control surfaces redirected the airflow exactly as designed. Instead of tumbling, the aircraft remained balanced. Instead of producing unpredictable turbulence, the disc generated stable lift. One measurement followed another. Each one confirmed the same conclusion. The mathematics had been right all along. For 18 years, the idea had waited for technology to catch up. Now, at last, reality agreed with the calculations. It wasn't just an engineering success, it was personal vindication. The dream had survived war, exile, and nearly 2 decades of uncertainty. But proving an idea works is very different from convincing someone to build it, and that challenge would prove even harder.